Good evening and welcome to the India Development Debate right here on ET Now. I'm Supriya Shrinate and let's put the spotlight back to where it belongs, the CBI mess. It's only getting murkier. A day after the top two officers of the investigative agency were sent on leave, 4 agents of the Intelligence Bureau were detained by the security staff of Alok Verma for allegedly snooping on the CBI chief who's been sent on forced leave. The IB has refuted the charges and says its officers were only doing routine surveillance. Many of us would want to step back and question why around Alok Verma's residence. But that apart, the opposition parties have jumped into the scenes, slamming the Modi government for using the IB for snooping on its detractors. Congress President Rahul Gandhi today questioned the centre for its decision to remove the CBI chief without even consulting the opposition parties. Rahul says neither the CVC nor the government has any power to suspend the CBI chief who enjoys protection because of a fixed constitutional term. And it is not just the opposition parties. Call it the CBI massacre. Senior BJP leader Subramanian Swamy today said that the Modi government is in a hurry to protect corrupt officers. The murky dealings at CBI, which threaten to undermine India's premier investigative agencies, is back to being a big topic of discussion and debate right here on the India Development Debate this evening. And let's take it straight across to our guests on the show tonight. Aishwarya Mahadevan represents the Congress party here. Naren Taneja represents the BJP. I've got Mr. Gopal Jain, senior advocate of the Supreme Court, and of course DR Karthikeyan, former director CBI. And it's only fair, Mr. Karthikeyan, that I start the show off you because you would know a lot more about what's happening and what should not be happening. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining us on this show. Mr. Karthikeyan, the first question, of course, is that the CBI director is sent on a leave. The very next day, you find these 4 alleged IB operatives detained outside his house. There seems to be almost a scene coming out of a page-turning crime thriller where crime meets political intrigue.
You see, I cannot comment on this because maybe you will know more than what I know. Because you have got your own reporters, you have got intelligence and all that. And only thing I can say is this is something which could have been prevented. I can say with confidence this could have been prevented. This should have been prevented. Preemptive action should have been taken. Like when the disease was the initial stages, they could have given some medicine or some injection or even a minor surgery. This could have prevented a very big crisis situation today for the organization. Now, of course, it's enveloping into a larger sphere. It is bound to happen in today's politics being what it is today. This could have been prevented. This could have been prevented because everybody knew something was going on there. Unfortunately, it should not have gone out of the CBI at all, for one thing. The first time it has happened such a big. Then there are authorities who could have intervened, who had the authority to intervene, they had a duty to intervene and sorted out the issue at much lower level, much lesser damage. No.
Okay, Mr. Karthikeyan, give me a minute. If I can come in, and I understand why you being guarded as a former CBI director, let me take this across to a very candid lawyer I know, and that's of course Gopal Jain. And Gopal, as if enough credibility had not been eroded already, has the presence of these 4 IB officials now reduced CBI's integrity and reputation to a farce? I mean, look at how things are unfolding. Look at how the plot is thickening. Open war, raids, snooping charges, multiple other agencies now being dragged in from the RAW to the IB. Can it get any more messy than this?
So, Supriya, let me start by saying this, that the CBI was called a caged parrot. Now, both the parrots are gone. And that takes us to the point that you made. What about institutional integrity? What about institutional legacy? I think this kind of an intestine war, which has resulted in this impasse and now, as you said, multiple agencies being involved, only means that those who were actually meant to be investigated will probably get away and can use this now to say, look, what a botched up organization. Can you really trust the outcome of the investigation by somebody who themselves are now going to be probably put under the scanner, becoming, investigating the investigators. So I think it has much larger ramifications because it strikes at the very root of and the edifice of what I call the institution's reputation, its integrity, and also its legacy.
Fair point. Just hold that thought there, and I will move this discussion away from what has just happened today to the integrity of the institution, and can the CBI really resurrect itself from here on? So just give me a minute, and please indulge me for my first few questions on the news of the day, so to say. What are you going to say in defense of everything that's coming to fore and everything that's coming to light, Mr. Taneja? The CBI director has been sent on a forced leave. That matter is going to be heard by the Supreme Courts tomorrow. We today have a situation where 4 IB guys have been found around his house on alleged snooping charges. I mean, this seems to be a plot out of a political pot boiler. It's almost like a thriller that we are reading. And the reality is that, I mean, the strange thing about the entire episode is it's all real. This isn't fictional.
No, I don't think really that you're dramatizing it too much. I mean, yes, it's unfortunate. The finance minister had made it very clear, and if you ask me, very unfortunate. But at the same time, to say that there was a Delhi police raid at the CBI headquarters, factually incorrect. There was no such raid. Whenever things like that happen, Delhi police is often asked to escort, and that was all that Delhi police was doing. And also to say they were snooping, those who know Delhi, and you know Delhi so well, I'm an intelligence bureau in all the sensitive area, they're always there. People are deployed. It was nothing more than that. And there was no snooping or surveillance. For that, you don't need to send the Havaldar of Delhi police. Those in the business, they will tell you. Now the point here is that yes, this is unfortunate what has happened, and CVC and CBI, they had been dealing with the issue last couple of months, as we all know that. The question is that CVC or others probably would have handled the issue slightly in a different way. I would agree with that with the former CBI director, what he's trying to indicate it between the lines. But the point here is there is nothing as dramatic as you actually want it to look like. There is nothing like that. Or of course, all of us, we are very proud of our institution in the country. CBI is a great institution. CVC is a great constitutional body and a great institution. But sometimes these things, with 2 or 3 individuals, these things happen. It does not mean the entire organization should be painted in black, or for that matter, CVC and all that. I don't really think. I mean, in the US, the FBI chief was fired by the president, though it was a fixed term appointment for 10 years. But does it mean FBI is completely gone? That's not how should we. These institutions are not about an individual or 2 individuals. These are great institutions. We need to strengthen them further.
Mr. Taneja.
And that's what exactly the government is trying to do.
Mr. Taneja, let me come in there. Mr. Taneja, let me come in there. Okay, Mr. Taneja, let me come in there. And just to take your point forward, I will ask precisely the question that you raised to the Congress party. But just as a parting shot, the sacking of the FBI chief in the United States may have not shut down the FBI, but guess what? It was a very dramatic moment. It was a watershed moment even in the United States as much as it is in India. I am not overly dramatizing the situation. It is dramatic enough. But Aishwarya Mahadev, I will ask you a very frank question that some in the BJP have said, and even the Ministry of Home Affairs has said, that IB units are routinely deployed in sensitive areas, and these men were part of just one such unit halted on Janpath. On routine duty, they were carrying their I-cards, because unlike when there's surveillance on, it's done very covertly. Are we really making mountain of a molehill here?
I believe, Supriya, at any point in a democracy, you realize agencies such as this have so much primacy because they're the ones that watch over the people who are supposed to govern us. There is absolutely no dramatization. When you see that a CBI chief has a complaint against him, his number 2 who came in with corruption charges against him is being supported by the government. 2 of them go on leave. The interim chief who comes in suddenly transfers everybody who is investigating the number 2. And then there's a lot of confusion while Mr. Jaitley just says, no, this is to preserve the integrity. Mr. Jaitley, if he wanted to preserve the integrity in 2016 and 17, would not have appointed Mr. Asthana at all because he was pending inquiry. So the BJP has no grounds to say we are holier than thou or we're doing what is procedurally all right. The BJP has systematically denigrated institutions from the time they came into power for their own convenience. They have created monsters everywhere that are now coming back to bite them. When you say this is routine surveillance, let's look at the situation and where the house is situated. There is also the fact that this could be something far deeper because Snoopgate, as we've seen before, comes out of Gujarat. Mr. Alok Verma's house is number 2 Janpath. The other large house which they could have possibly been routinely having surveillance on is 10 Janpath. You realize that could have far larger consequences because we've seen the Prime Minister and basically the man who runs the party have a history of this. Okay. At the end of it, Supriya, we have to realize that democracy and its institutions are in danger. The BJP can say we're dramatizing it, we're not. We're voicing our fears
Okay.
legitimately, and this is pathetic that the BJP has done this to our country.
You know, I'm just going to turn this focus away from this political tu-tu meh-meh of sorts, whether it was 2 Janpath or 10 Janpath, whatever was happening. If it wasn't routine, I think it should make a lot of us sit back, take notice and worry. But in any case, let me just move away from this. And the topic of today's discussion really is CBI's own integrity. Can CBI resurrect itself? Mr. Karthikeyan, you were diplomatic in the first answer, but in this, ahead of the Supreme Court hearing on Alok Verma's petition, the government has clarified that he continues to be the CBI director. Mr. Asthana continues to be special director, and they have only been divested of discharging duties for an interim period. And in that period, Mr. Nageshwar Rao will be looking after the duties and functions of the CBI director. Is this all happening just ahead of the Supreme Court hearing tomorrow? And the larger question is, who is the CBI director today? Is Mr. Nageshwar Rao the CBI director? Is he occupying the high seat, or is it actually Mr. Alok Verma? I mean, why this confusion?
See, obviously the government had to give the clarification because they have no authority to remove the director of the CBI. They realized that. They will say he is divested of the duties and the charge responsibility of running the CBI for the time being is given to some other officer. So that's what the government have stated. We have to accept it. That is the position. Whether that is right or wrong, that's for the Supreme Court to decide. You can keep on debating is right, somebody can say it is wrong, but fortunately we have an institution which everybody has a total faith, that is Supreme Court of India. So let us wait for that. The arguments will there may be certain things which are not known to you and to me. The government will be able to make it obvious, present it to the Supreme Court of India to say why they did it, how they did it, and whether what they did was right or wrong. All these are matters, for speculation. I don't think it's correct. In fact, I will be hesitant to make any discussion on this because the matter is before the highest court, and a decision will be known maybe in a day or two, whatever it is. Then whatever is the verdict, we have to accept it now. Yes, the credibility of the CBI is dented, no doubt about it. It can be restored. Yes, it can be restored. It may take some time. If once this whatever is the cleaning up operation is done, the right things are established, the right people are put, and they have the full authority. Whoever comes will have fuller authority now, because they know nobody would like to have any such controversy happening again. Something good will come out of the very bad situation,
not so sure about that.
which need not have been precipitated,
Okay.
could have been prevented by timely action.
Okay. Okay. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. You raise an important point that anybody who comes in will hopefully be, will give more autonomy to the agency because they wouldn't want any charges like this to be raised. I'm not so sure about that. But Gopal Jain, let me come to you. It is quite clear that our national agencies, whether it's the ED, the CBI, and I'm not just talking about under this government, even under previous governments, are treated like private militia. I mean, how are we going to keep the politicians out is just one question. And the other question is, look at the rot that has been reported of the CBI within. The director on record says that there was an extortion racket that was being run by a certain section of the CBI. He on record says the government was putting tacit pressure on high-profile cases. I mean, these are very serious, grave charges. And I'm not just pointing fingers at this government. I think equal amount of questions need to be raised, equal number of questions need to be raised on how politicians over successive governments have treated the CBI. But from here on, can CBI pull itself out of this crisis?
So I think there are three parts to what you said. First, the Supreme Court way back in Vineet Narayan's case had also stepped in to lay down certain ground rules, and one important aspect of that obviously is to give security of tenure. The second aspect is that how do you select the best and the most competent officer to be the director of the CBI, for which now there is an institutional arrangement. So it's not left to an individual, there is no discretion, and you have what I call a very broad based committee which has the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice and others, so that it's an institutional decision making process, it's not left to an individual. Then you have the CVC to provide the oversight. But despite all these three, we are faced in a situation where you had two officers in an open fight, as you said, complete case of institutional breakdown, grave for the reputation of a premier institution, which is already, as you said, capable of being used or misused, and now it makes itself even more vulnerable. So I think the integrity of the selection process, selecting the best and the most competent and suitable officer on merits. 3, a very effective oversight, which is not done by government, but again a truly independent CVC, would be steps which you need to take to try and restore some kind of confidence. But I think the most important thing which emerges from all this is how vulnerable the system is, that you could have two people at the senior most level have a full-on war going on when the CBI sees of such important matters which is investigating both in India and with the help of other agencies overseas. So I think bringing down the institution when you have a fight between two officers fighting for the top slot, I think that's...
Gopal, you make an important point there. Gopal, you make an important point there. I will have to come in, and may I please request the panel to keep the answers short so that I can cover the number of questions that I do have on my list here. And Mr. Taneja, you accuse me of overly dramatizing the situation. I'm putting an overly dramatic solution on the table. I wonder if politicians are going to buy this. We've had the courts itself talk and call the CBI a caged parrot. The Apex Court then had sought an undertaking from the UPA government that it would provide more autonomy to the outfit. The latest events all tell you that the political class is unwilling to give that autonomy. Has the time come for a new investigative agency in place of CBI, or without taking a drastic measure like that, do the events of the last few days at least make an open and shut case for granting full autonomy to the CBI? And anybody who says CBI has full autonomy needs to go back to the last 4 days. And of course, many years before.
No, you see... No, Supriya, first thing first, you see, a nation is nothing but a network of institutions. All these institutions are important, CBI and CVC, and of course the press. And there are people who question practically every single institution, press, Election Commission of India, and so on and so forth. If it suits them, they question it. Now the point here is that, should we build another organization and all that? But again, we are the same people. The question is, these are institutions, they've been around for a long time. And I want to remind you what happened in 2010, if I remember the year correctly, when Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, the tallest minister of UPA 2, the people questioned it was CBI because he said his office was bugged. You see, it is Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, you may recollect that. So those we have had in the past faced such questions, but still I think, we have to keep on strengthening the institution. And if we really want to kind of question the integrity of any institution, it's important you do it with facts. What Mr. Rahul Gandhi has done today, Mr. Verma was going to, order an inquiry into Rafale case and all that, it's all crap. Because CBI, as we all know, the anti-corruption law and all that, there is a certain procedure. Evidently, Mr. Rahul Gandhi doesn't know anything about the procedures and doesn't have respect for the institution. I think whether it's me, you, or anyone, it's important when we question the integrity of such institutions that we are a little bit careful, because when we do that, we compromise with the future of this country. And I'm not willing to say anything that would question the future of this country or the institution for that matter.
All right. Okay, Aishwarya, come in on the point that, I think every politician in this country must answer. This is a bipartisan topic that we're talking about. Police reforms have been stalled for years in this country. CBI, the IB, the RAW report to the Home Ministry. CBI has a checkered history when it comes to investigating corruption cases against high-profile politicians. And very often, it's not just the CBI, but departments like Income Tax or ED are used for political considerations. Given all of that in mind, how willing are politicians to stop putting their favorite officers on key posts to influence key investigations? And it's not just this government that is accused of doing so. The Congress party was equally opposed of doing so. Are politicians willing to give up control that they exercise over these agencies, even though they are technically, quote-unquote, autonomous?
I believe that there's always any politician or any person in any position of power would like to have people around him who are favorable to him. That is the same case with any political dispensation. If you look at the fact that a lot of times what happens is the law or the courts do step in to try and give justice. For example, when the Vineet Narain case happened, there were certain suspicions on the CBI which were clarified because of transfers. Then you saw that it became a subsequent law. And that helped strengthen and also proved the fact that everybody has unequivocally said Mr. Alok Verma being changed is illegal right now. I believe over time, even though we cannot, because political selfishness and bureaucratic selfishness is going to exist. I cannot comment on that. But however, over time, because of necessity, absolute necessity like this high-profile drama has created, the courts and other institutions are going to have a self-check mechanism or are going to look back to strengthen it and make the law more watertight. I believe that is the only way, because we cannot assume sort of altruistic intentions on anybody, especially, let's say, a ruling class or anybody who is in power. So the courts are going to step in, and hopefully administrative reforms are going to come in, that officers like this cannot continue to work.
There is political consensus on the fact that there needs to be absolute autonomy, and there needs to be some kind of, an ideal situation where people with integrity and not political favoritism are put in places. Mr. Karthikeyan, the Supreme Court judgment in the Jain Hawala case also ensures full freedom for allocation or work within agency, including the constitution of investigation teams for the CBI director. And moreover, it states that it is essential to protect officers at the decision-making levels from vexatious inquiries / prosecutions. Now, does the transfer of around a dozen officers, is that in contravention to the Supreme Court's direction itself? These were all officials who were aligned with high-profile cases, who were a part of high-profile probes and investigation that the CBI was doing. Mr. Karthikeyan.
Yeah, all this will be questioned. All this will be questioned before the highest court, and the verdict we have to await. Well, you can argue on both sides. We can justify this. We can also say it is not correct also, because who has given the authority to the person who is in charge to do all that? Or he thinks it is a duty to do a fair and impartial investigation. These all interpretations are possible. But only thing I would like to say is, because of what the situation we are facing today, the structure which has been established has found itself to be totally inadequate to deal with the situation. Either the structure has to be changed or revamped. I don't know, something will come out of this now. Otherwise, why should it happen? If the system created after the Hawala case is working well, why should we face this disastrous situation? So obviously, I think we will leave it to the wisdom of the highest court to give a decision on all the points raised by you. It can be argued either way, but what is the right thing to be done? I think we should wait for the decision which will come out.
Okay.
And I'm sure
I've just got the last 2 minutes
long,
on the show
maybe
here.
in a day or two. And all that, this question will
I've just got the last 2 minutes on the show here, and I think it's only fair I take it back to where the discussion starts from and where is the political controversy going. I will request both Narendra Taneja and Aishwarya Mahadev to keep the answers extremely brief. And the point of discussion, of course, is going to be Rafale. I know it's a tricky issue that we talk about, but please keep your answers brief. Mr. Taneja, will you agree that the ouster of the CBI director and with the deftness at which it happened has brought the entire Rafale controversy back to the center stage? People believe there is legal basis now for a court-monitored probe.
No, but where is the legal basis? I mean, just because Mr. Rahul Gandhi wants to say something, what evidence he has got? I mean, he's saying, was he kind of secretly talking with Mr. Verma, the former CBI chief? If you go by his press conference, that's what it looks like. If that was the case, that's illegal. He should come out openly and, and actually share the exact information. What kind of relationship he had with Mr. Verma? What exactly the two gentlemen were sharing? I mean, if I'm just going by the press conference, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, and there is let's not forget one thing, there is Prevention of Corruption Act. If you go by Section 17A, is very clear that this will involve officials also. This means that they cannot go for any investigation without the consent of the central government. But I go back to the bigger point. CBI is more important. Integrity is more important. Is perception, image for the people of this country is more important. And I'll go along with this thing. If we need to kind of bring about some kind of amends in the structure as a country, I think we should consider that. But CBI is not about two individuals. It's an organization. It's an institution, and we must strengthen the organization. And Mr. Rahul Gandhi should be careful when he basically attributes.
Aishwarya Mahadev, I'm going to give you exactly a minute. Narendra Taneja, I get that, sir. I don't have time. I cannot continue. Aishwarya Mahadev, I'll I'll come to you. Forget about the CBI integrity for a minute. The Rafale controversy. You believe it has been brought back into on center stage because of how he was ousted. The reality is, where is proof?
First and foremost, it is clear that with Prime Minister Modi and co, it is my way or the highway. Because if you look at it, not only senior journalists who have commented about it, but Mr. Prashant Bhushan himself, who has again filed in the court, has said that Mr. Verma had asked for the Rafale papers to be given to him. He was probing 6 highly special cases at that point. And when the Rafale paper issue came, it is not coincidental, but highly suspect that a few weeks after that these issues started brewing between Mr. Number 1 and Number 2. And then suddenly he was asked to go on leave. You realize that the sequence of events, especially because Mr. Narendra Modi asked to meet Mr. Alok Verma on Sunday, and when after the meeting, Mr. Verma still divested Mr. Asthana of his duties. They realized that Mr. Verma would not budge. Rafale is basically the tip of the iceberg, but we believe this is the one that is going to bring the government down, and we will not stop until we get the truth.
On that note, completely out of time on this edition of the India Development Debate. Can't thank this wonderful panel of Mr. Karthikeyan, Mr. Jain, Mr. Taneja, and of course Ms. Mahadev. Thank you very, very much for being with us right here on the India Development Debate this evening. The debate will continue as far as the CBI is concerned. India's premier investigative agency finds itself in a rock-bottom place, and it is up to the CBI to now resurrect from here. The question is, will our politicians let that happen? We take a quick breather and we come back with yet another fascinating story. SR back in the play as far as SR Steel is concerned, willing to pay up over 53,000 crore rupees. The question is, will the banks and the Committee of Creditors agree, or will SR be shown the door?